Hi everyone. My name is Bree, and this is my first video blog that I've ever done. Um, I am 33 years old, and I have PCOS, and I've had it since I was about 14 or 15. And actually, it was my mom and a nurse practitioner that she had worked with that basically diagnosed me, and not my doctors. In high school, I was having very irregular periods where I would go months without having one. Then I would have one for weeks and then off a week and on 2 weeks and then off 3 months, and it just extremely erratic and irregular. So that was the first time that we had really heard about it, and there wasn't a lot of information out there that we could turn to. So my mom works in the medical field, so luckily she's always been one of my best advocates and support persons for this. So in high school, I was really active. I was on swimming and I was a cheerleader, and I was always just working out or doing something active. And when I graduated high school, I was 5'6", which I still am that same height now. And I was about 140 pounds. And I felt good. Things felt really good. Went to college, and that whole freshman 15 for me was more like the freshman 20, but that was okay. In college, I swam still. I didn't do cheerleading, but I swam, and I was biking or walking to class all the time except for rainy days. And I would bike to the gym, where I would run at the gym and I would work out, and I was even on the crew team for a while. So it was really active and really fit. And I still weighed, oh, sorry, it's getting dark. I still weighed about 160 pounds. And every time I'd go into the health center, they would always say, you're in the overweight category. And it was really frustrating for me because I was extremely active and I ate very well, very few simple carbs. I would always go to the local farm booths and buy all the fresh organic beets and apples and potatoes once in a while and carrots, and just ate really well. I've always liked sweets, but even in college, I stayed far from sweets. Didn't have fast food in college other than when I would drive home, which is like an 8-hour drive to my parents' house. I might pop off and grab a taco or something like that. So, but just very, very healthy. I met my current husband, my only husband. I met my husband, and he's the whole time I've known him, even in high school. He's about almost 6 feet, and he weighs between 150 and 155 constant. So when we moved in together before we got married, it was August 2004, and I just graduated from college, and I was about 160, and we moved in together, and it was something, everything changed. Um, all of a sudden, his eating habits that he grew up with, which he was raised on a lot of processed foods, had a lot of fast food in the house. Parents didn't do a lot of home cooking, and if it was all the quick, easy kind of meals. So he was raised on that stuff, and so he brought all of that into the house. And I didn't think twice about it. I know it sounds really silly, but food was never an issue for me. I never was fixated on what I ate and how I ate. I just knew that I liked healthy foods and I enjoyed working out, and so it never was a big concern of mine. So I come home and here are these boxes of Entenmann's coffee cakes, and there was soda. And thank God to this day, I still am not a soda fan. I will have once in a blue moon, and it takes me 2 days to drink it. No joke. So thank God for that. But there was all of a sudden all these bad foods were introduced, and I graduated college. I couldn't get a job right away, which is, the story of everyone's life right now. And I kind of was depressed a little bit. And so um, I just started just eating the foods that were there, and I didn't even think about it. And so that was August. And then in November, I was in one of my best friend's wedding, and I had been measured and fitted for my bridesmaid's dress in August before I left school. And I went back to her wedding in November and my dress didn't fit. And I couldn't figure out why. And I thought, no, I haven't gained that much weight. And her future mother-in-law was frantically trying to take off the seams and told me to go to a store and buy like one of those tummy suckers and everything. And I was still just baffled and I was crying and I was just really upset that, okay, things were happening to my body very quickly. And it still did not register in my head that it had anything to do with the foods that I was eating. So we got that situation figured out. The whole dress was taken out and I bought a girdle basically is what it was. And I was able to do her wedding just fine. My wedding was 3 weeks later. And I have pictures of me even trying to like flatten my boobs down because everything was just a little bit bigger. And looking back in retrospect, I probably had gained about 10 to 15 pounds within that 4-month span of time. And it was kind of shocking. And my mom had a conversation with me and she was really quite frank. And she just said, I think part of your problem is that you are eating all these terrible foods that Nick has in the house. And I thought, really? Could that really be it? Oh, one other thing it's not just the Entenmann's coffee cake, but he would go to fast food restaurants frequently. And it got to be where at first I would say, no, I'm good. And then it was like, yeah. Why don't you just get me a taco? And then it was like, oh, get me 2 tacos. And we were doing this probably 3 to 4 times a week. And growing up and going through college, rarely, if ever, having eaten fast food to 3 to 4 times a week, someone who has PCOS is like, you may as well just inject me with liquid fat because really, I gained a lot of weight really quickly. So 5 years later, here I was at 70 pounds heavier. And it was shocking. It was really depressing. And I would look at myself in pictures and not know who that was. I couldn't recognize me. I couldn't come to terms with it. And at that point, I thought, this is it. I had nothing else that I could possibly do. And I tried at that point to kind of start reversing things. And once a person who has PCOS, once you put weight on them, getting it off is 10 times harder than asking the average person to go lose some weight. So it was really challenging. And of course, at this time, we were wanting to start a family. And if you're watching this video, you probably have PCOS too, and you know that with PCOS comes fertility issues. So I went to a specialist, and she put me through the whole infertility spectrum and everything. And wow, she found out I had PCOS, which we already knew that. It was already in my chart at this point, but still they had to do their own diagnostics. And it was determined that I had PCOS yet again. And so long story short, she, asked me to lose 20 pounds. And I just broke down and started crying because I knew that would take me probably years to do. So I thought, oh, no, here we go. I'm being held up by my weight. So she finally agreed after a few months of me trying to lose the weight and being unsuccessful. She finally agreed to try me on Clomid. And I am so fortunate because Clomid worked the first time with my daughter. So I only took 1 round of Clomid and I got pregnant with my daughter in February of 2009. And she blessed us into our lives October 28th, 2009. A few years went by. My weight was still slowly rising. I was able to lose about 7 to 10 pounds, and that was basically starving myself. I'm not joking. It was basically eating something that was like 1,000 to 1,200 calories per day and working out, and I was able to lose 7 to 10 pounds in about 2 weeks, but then it just kind of flatlined. So more than likely it was just water weight that I had lost, but still it made me feel so good to even just get a little bit of weight off, and kind of started that motivation going. And ever since my daughter was born, I have completely shifted in my thinking of eating anyway and exercising again. So I'm back at the gym. I'm exercising regularly. and we're eating better than we've ever eaten before as a couple. So it's good for him too. Fast food isn't even in our diet. And the Entenmann's coffee cakes don't even exist to us anymore. So we're doing really good when it comes to the food intake. The hardest thing still is the sweets. I definitely have a sweet tooth. And whereas before in college, I didn't really have that and I just kept it at my house, it's a little bit tougher to stay away from that. I love chocolate. So chocolate's definitely my best friend at times. Um, so when we wanted to have another child, again, we did Clomid, and it only took us 2 tries, or 2 rounds of Clomid, and we got pregnant with our son, and he was born September 26, 2012, so just almost about 10 months ago. And that's when I really started thinking that there needs to be something different that happens with my weight. So I started looking into weight loss surgery, which was a scary thing. And I will, on the next video, I will tell you about my experience so far with starting that process, because it's a scary one. And I am in the very beginning of it, and I'm hoping that I can document for you my process, my journey, and give you some hope. And if you are anything like me, where you started your adulthood healthy, active, still possibly overweight, medically speaking, but polycystic ovarian syndrome speaking, you were not overweight, then perhaps you can relate more to me.